The room buzzed with excitement as Emily leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. It was a grand event, full of movers and shakers, where the powerful and the hopeful mingled like glittering stars in a night sky. But all Emily could feel was a knot twisting in her stomach. She sighed, trying to shake off the unpleasant feeling. She muttered to her friend Sarah, who stood beside her, eagerly checking her phone. "I usually love this stuff, but tonight it just feels. Just relax him." Sarah waved a finger at a passing waiter offering tiny plates of food. That name sent a jolt of irritation straight through Emily. Greg, the man who had made her life complicated in more ways than one. He was charming, yes, but his arrogance was like a dark cloud overshadowing her thoughts. She rolled her eyes at the mention of his name. Greg," she said, fiddling with her necklace. "Why does he always have to show up at these things? Can't he just?" Sarah chuckled softly, unaware of Emily's true feelings. "Oh, come on, he's not that bad, he's just full of himself, but something about his confidence is kind of..." Emily shook her head, magnetic, more like suffocating. Just then there was a ripple in the crowd. Emily straightened, her curiosity piqued. Heads turned and the whispering buzz grew louder. Greg was making his entrance and everyone was glued to him like moths drawn to a flame. He walked in with the poise of a king, dressed impeccably, a wide smile stretched across his face. "Here we go," Emily muttered under her breath, trying to avoid eye contact. She felt an old annoyance bubbling to the surface as he laughed at something someone said, his voice rising above the crowd like a confident anthem. "I don't know," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with admiration. The flutter of excitement in the room shifted as the loudspeakers crackled. The founder of the startup, a well-respected figure named Andrew, was about to speak. When Andrew stepped onto the stage, silence fell over the crowd like a blanket, the attention now fully focused on him. Andrew cleared his throat and began to speak about breaking boundaries and changing lives. The audience was already entranced, but when he mentioned teamwork and innovation, Emily couldn't shake the creeping sense of competition that intertwined with her thoughts about Greg. Their past interactions flashed in her mind like a movie she wanted to skip. "Don't think about it," she whispered to herself, squeezing her eyes shut for a moment. "Just breathe, let it go." But whispers about Greg swirled around her. She clenched her hands into fists, feeling a mix of frustration and a challenge igniting within her. As Andrew concluded his speech, the crowd erupted into applause. It was contagious. Emily reluctantly joined in, her mind still racing. She glanced over at Greg, who remained surrounded by admirers, seemingly soaking in every bit of attention. And there he was, that infuriating smile as if he were the sun and everyone else was orbiting around him. Emily, take a chance. "Network a little," Sarah nudged her. With an exaggerated sigh, Emily knew she had to at least make an appearance. "Fine, I'll go say hi," she replied, steeling herself. She pushed through the crowd, taking small steps toward the gathering centered on Greg. "Hey, look who it is," he said, flashing that infuriating smile. Emily, "Ha, very funny," she responded flatly. "What are you up to these days?" He leaned in, his voice dropping a notch so only she could hear. "Actually, I've been quite busy." "Breaking new ground, you know." Her heart raced, mixing irritation with a touch of admiration. "Right." Before he could respond, Andrew walked over, interrupting their exchange. He held out his hand, a bright smile on his face. "Greg, great to see you here." Greg grinned from ear to ear and shook Andrew's hand firmly, like a trophy he was proud to claim. "Thanks, Andrew, I appreciate that." As they spoke, Emily felt like an intruder watching a private conversation. She could almost feel the energy shift, as if the air was thick with possibility. Greg's charm was undeniable, and Andrew seemed captivated by him. Emily couldn't help but roll her eyes again, this time subconsciously, as she watched them. "Now, Emily," Andrew turned, his eyes landing on her, cutting through her thoughts. Her heart skipped a beat, taken off guard by the sudden attention. She stammered, feeling exposed. The sudden rush of eyes on her was more than she anticipated. "Andrew has told me a lot about you," the assistant smiled, but Emily barely registered it. Her mind lingered on Greg's reaction, watching how he tucked his hands into his pockets, clearly enjoying himself. "Emily is quite the problem solver, you know. She helped us launch our last project despite the many hiccups," Andrew continued, his tone sincere. Greg looked over, his eyebrows raised. "Really? That's impressive." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Was he genuinely complimenting her? The walls she'd built around her heart momentarily crumbled. "Thanks, I try my best," she said, a hint of warmth spilling into her voice. Was she starting to see his charm? "However, you shouldn't let him fool you," Emily added playfully, her eyes narrowing slightly. Greg laughed, a deep and infectious sound. "Fair enough, I'll take that as a challenge." Over the chatter, Andrew leaned in closer, his gaze shifting between both of them. "Your synergy is impressive. Why don't you both collaborate on a project?" Emily felt her heart race. The thought of working with Greg, who had always rubbed her the wrong way, sent chills through her. She began, but Andrew was already enthusiastic. "Yes, I'd love to see you two team up. It could spark something amazing," he insisted, eyes glinting with excitement. Emily looked at Greg, whose expression was unreadable for a moment before shifting into a smirk. "Well, if she's willing to come out of her shell, I'm all for it." She shot back, feeling the heat rush to her cheeks. "Absolutely," he said, his voice steady. "The corner of her mouth curled up involuntarily. Fun, but the truth was, as much as she loathed admitting it, there was something captivating about the thought of them working together. It sparked something within her, an undeniable curiosity mixed with uncertainty. She finally said, a mixture of resentment and thrill swirling in her. Greg extended his hand, and in that moment things felt heavy and light all at once. He asked, eyes gleaming with that same charisma that drove her crazy. As she took his hand, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip, Emily was reminded of all the times she had dismissed him. Still, there was something about this moment that felt different. This was her chance to step into a world she had often resented but secretly craved. I guess we'll see, Emily said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. The room around them faded into the background, and for a moment it was just the two of them. Maybe this partnership would turn out to be a crossroads, a mix of challenge and collaboration. Maybe she would discover something new about him, about herself. As laughter filled the air and the buzz of conversation surged once again, she realized that sometimes opportunity comes wrapped in surprises. She hadn't expected to find herself even slightly intrigued by Greg tonight, but here she was, caught in a twist of fate. And as much as she rolled her eyes at his name, she knew one thing for sure: whatever the future held, it was about to get interesting. The clinking of glasses and laughter filled the air, but for Mia, the world faded into a dull hum. She stood at the edge of the bustling rooftop, her eyes scanning the crowded space, seeking an escape more than a connection. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the skyline with colors of gold and orange, yet she felt none of that warmth. Instead, a chill coursed through her veins as she heard his name for what seemed like the 100th time that evening. Someone nearby exclaimed, their voice bubbling with enthusiasm. Mia rolled her eyes, a reflex that betrayed more than just annoyance. It was a defense mechanism. The very name sent a wave of irritation through her. He had an uncanny ability to worm his way into conversations, into people's lives, as if he thrived on the spotlight. For Mia, though, he was more of a shadow, persistent, unwelcome one. Mia murmured to her friend Kelly, who stood beside her sipping a mocktail, oblivious to Mia's growing discomfort. Kelly shook her head, her eyes wide with excitement. I heard he might show up. Yeah, I can, Mia replied, her voice flat. But as if summoned by her irritation, the crowd parted, and there he stood, Greg, tall and confident, exuding a magnetic energy that made heads turn. The golden hour was his backdrop, and he milked it. He flashed a charming smile, greeting familiar faces, while Mia felt her stomach twist into knots. Look at him, she grumbled, crossing her arms. Kelly countered, a hint of admiration creeping into her tone. Mia's jaw tightened. In her mind, she replayed their last encounter, an overly ambitious pitch where he practically danced around the room, showering compliments like confetti, all while subtly undermining her idea. It hadn't taken long for her to realize that Greg was all about appearances, and she wouldn't let herself be drawn in by that charisma. The air shifted as Andrew, the founder of the startup hosting the event, stepped onto the small stage at the end of the rooftop. He commanded attention effortlessly, a respected figure with a voice that merged authority and warmth. Andrew began, and the buzz of conversation quieted to a hush. Tonight, we celebrate innovation, creativity, and yes, the power of collaboration. Mia's heart raced as a new current of tension rippled through the crowd. Andrew was known for his passionate speeches, but it was who he might be bringing to the stage that truly mattered. And this individual, Andrew continued, has taken our latest project to heights we never imagined. Cheers erupted, and Mia instinctively rolled her eyes again. She couldn't help it. It felt like an automatic reaction. As Greg stepped forward, the crowd erupted in applause, and while everyone else celebrated, she felt a tightness in her chest. Look at that, she said under her breath. Kelly nudged her gently. Mia shot back, her gaze fixed on Greg as he took the microphone, his confidence radiating in waves. Thank you for that kind introduction, Andrew, Greg exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Mia's lips pressed into a thin line. He was playing to the crowd, captivating everyone with charm and well-rehearsed words. She leaned closer to Kelly, her voice barely above a whisper. Kelly shook her head, amused, jealous. Mia let out a humorless laugh. But as Greg continued speaking, Mia noticed something shift within her. Though she resisted for the sake of her pride, part of her began to listen. He spoke about the challenges his team faced, the late nights, the sacrifices. For a moment, it felt real and not just an act for the audience. I truly believe that innovation comes when we collaborate, when we push each other beyond our limits, he said, a passion lighting up his eyes. And just like that, the crowd was hanging on his every word, wrapped up in his narrative. Mia couldn't deny that he had a special kind of talent. Whether it was manipulation or genuine passion, she couldn't tell, yet something inside her wanted to listen. It sent a conflicting wave of irritation coursing through her. She turned away, taking a deep breath, pushing the frustration deep inside her. Just as she finished her thought, Andrew stepped back from the microphone, his eyes scanning the crowd. Mia squinted in disbelief. Special announcement. As Greg joined Andrew, Mia felt the air thicken with anticipation. The crowd leaned in closer, expectations soaring. What did Greg have up his sleeve this time? Tonight, we're excited to introduce a new initiative, Greg said, his face lit up with enthusiasm. a partnership program where emerging talents can connect with experienced leaders. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Mia felt a mix of anger and begrudging admiration. Could this guy do no wrong? The buzz enveloped her, but she pushed it aside, clenching her teeth. She wanted to shake her head and laugh, but he just kept shining. As Andrew wrapped up the announcement, Mia caught a glance at Greg, who had returned to the crowd. The moment he stepped off the stage, people surrounded him, eager to congratulate him, to pat him on the back. And there she was, standing at the edge, feeling like an outsider looking in. Kelly suggested, a tug of excitement in her voice. Mia snapped, "You go." But despite her reluctance, she found herself moving closer, her feet betraying her. Kelly called, waving eagerly. Mia could hardly breathe. She stood still as a statue, feeling the energy from Greg's laughter, the way he shined brighter than anyone else. "Thank you," he replied, his voice carrying that same charisma. He turned toward Mia, and for a moment time stood still. He exclaimed, eyes lighting up, "You're here." Her heart skipped a beat before the armor she wore came back into place. "Must be your lucky day," she shot back, folding her arms defensively. "That's the spirit," he chuckled, unbothered by her snide tone. Mia interrupted, her voice edged in skepticism. Greg laughed again, and it struck her how genuine it felt, how it tugged at something deep within. "Not at all. I just think we could create something impactful. You've got incredible ideas, Mia." The truth hit her like a cold splash of water. Was he actually acknowledging her talents, or was this just another game? She felt a fire brewing inside, a conflict between her pride and curiosity. "I'm not eager to hitch my wagon to your star," she retorted, searching his face for any sign of insincerity. His smile faltered for just a moment, but then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "What if I told you that's exactly why I want you on board? Your ideas challenge me, they make me push harder, and who knows?" The sincerity in his eyes made her pulse race, and for the first time she felt doubt creeping in. Was it possible that Greg had changed? The network of tight-knit colleagues around her seemed to fade, and it was just the two of them, wrapped in a bubble of challenge and potential. "You know, you could have just called me out instead of playing these games," she said, her voice softer now. "Maybe I wanted to face the challenge head-on," he replied with a grin. But just as she was starting to consider it, a commotion broke through the crowd. Andrew emerged again, proclaiming the start of a networking session, a chance for everyone present to mingle and brainstorm. He exclaimed, his excitement infecting the crowd. Mia turned back to Greg, heart pounding, thrown into uncertainty. "You should go, mingle," she said, trying to mask the sudden flutter of emotions rising within her. "Maybe I'm more interested in having a conversation with you," he countered, an unwavering determination in his gaze. Just then someone from the crowd interrupted, calling Greg's name, a friendly face eager to envelop him in praise. "Excuse me," he said, glancing at her. Before she could respond, he was swept into the throng, surrounded by the applause and excitement as they cheered him on for the initiative. Mia watched as he navigated the crowd effortlessly, drawing admirers like bees to honey, and a familiar sting of frustration washed over her. As the room buzzed around her, Mia felt torn between admiration for Greg's ability to shine and frustration that she couldn't break past the barrier between them. Who was the real Greg, the facade he wore in public, or the sincerity she caught a glimpse of tonight? She stood alone, lost in a sea of excitement, feeling both inspired and angered by the journey ahead. The crowd continued to pulsate, but she realized something profound. Sometimes the fiercest challenges come entwined with unexpected partnerships. And maybe, just maybe, she hadn't been seeing the whole picture. With a deep breath, she decided to stay for just a little while longer to see where this unpredictable night would lead. A chance encounter, a sharp wit, and a flicker of curiosity all lined up amid the shimmering lights. This was a night that promised more than she ever expected, changing the course of her thoughts and perhaps her future. As the crowd ebbed and flowed around her, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real story was just beginning. What lay ahead, a relationship forged in rivalry, mutual admiration, and perhaps the most unexpected of collaborations. She just needed to be open to it all. The moment she heard his name, Mia felt a chill run down her spine. It was like a switch had flipped inside her, anger mixed with disbelief. Her coworker Emily asked, and Mia couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Oh great," she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Just what I need." She leaned against the wall, crossing her arms tightly as if trying to shield herself from the very thought of him. Emily laughed lightly, brushing aside Mia's irritation. "He's not that bad, you know. I think he's actually really talented." Mia's heart raced. She knew that everyone was captivated by Greg's charisma, how he could light up a room with just his smile. But all it did for her was make her feel small. She had seen his type before, smooth-talking, self-promoting, always painting himself as the hero in every story. "Sure," Mia replied, her voice low. "He's talented, but do we have to listen to his constant self-promotion? It's exhausting." The atmosphere in the room was electric as it filled with eager faces and laughter. Mia could feel the anticipation growing like a wave crashing against the shore. Tonight was the launch party for the company's biggest project yet, an innovation that could put them on the map. Everyone had worked tirelessly and the excitement was palpable, yet Mia felt like an outsider in her own success. As the lights dimmed slightly, the founder of the company, Andrew, took the stage. He was a sturdy man known for his measured speeches filled with wisdom. As he began to speak, Mia forced herself to pay attention. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This is a celebration of our hard work and collaboration." Mia shifted her weight. She knew Andrew had a way of making every person in that room feel special, but she couldn't help the thoughts racing through her mind. How long until Greg swoops in, steals the spotlight, and becomes the star of the evening? She could almost see it playing out in her head. "Tonight, we have a special guest who has played a crucial role in our journey," Andrew continued, his tone rising with excitement. The audience erupted into applause, and Mia felt a tension building in her chest. "Here we go," she muttered, watching Greg stroll confidently to the front, his presence magnetizing everyone in the room. Greg stepped to the center of the stage, his smile infectious, and began to speak with an energy that practically vibrated through the air. "Thank you, Andrew. It's an honor to be here tonight." Mia's stomach twisted. The way he effortlessly commanded the space made her skin crawl. While others cheered him on, she felt a mix of frustration and disbelief. She thought about how often Greg had swooped in at the last minute to steal ideas, or how he had a knack for making every success feel like it was only theirs. He was the hero of his own story, and she had grown weary of playing the reluctant sidekick. "There's a lot of work ahead, and I believe that together we can break new ground," Greg continued, his voice booming with confidence. The crowd was captivated, hanging on his every word, but then something shifted. As he spoke, Mia caught sight of a woman in the front row, nodding with fierce determination. It was one of the newer interns, Anna, and it struck Mia how inspired she looked. In that moment, Mia's heart softened. She remembered being that eager intern, bright-eyed and full of dreams, and how Greg's charisma had meant something to her then. Maybe his energy was more than just showmanship. Maybe it inspired people. Yet it still left a bitter taste in her mouth. Her mind traveled back to their last encounter, a tense meeting where he had brushed aside her contributions like they were nothing. She couldn't shake how he'd taken credit for the project they had all worked on, turning it into a solo act complete with grand gestures. "Mia," Emily's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to reality. "Yeah, just processing," she replied, unable to hide her frustration. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, Greg finished his speech and the audience erupted into applause. Mia forced herself to clap along with everyone else, though part of her felt like it was all a show. She glanced at Emily, who wore a starry-eyed expression, eyes glued to Greg. Emily beamed, practically bouncing on her heels. "Oh joy," Mia said dryly, but before she could protest further, Emily dragged her toward the throng of admirers surrounding Greg at the stage. As they approached, Mia's heart pounded. She watched him laugh, shaking hands and accepting praise like it was his due. Greg's charisma lit up the surrounding faces, and Mia felt her resolve weakening. What was it about him that made everyone, including her, fall for it? "Mia," Greg's voice rang out, cutting through the noise. He caught sight of her, a genuine smile breaking across his face in a sea of flattery. He said, stepping toward her as if she were the only one in the room. The casual confidence he wore felt disarming, and Mia was taken aback. "Yeah, if you're into ego boosts," she shot back, hiding the turmoil brewing inside. His laughter rang out, light and easy. "Come on, I'm just doing my part." "In this together, sure, if by together you mean you get all the credit," she replied, crossing her arms defensively. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by an amused smirk. "That's an interesting perspective, Mia, but don't count me out just yet." Mia narrowed her eyes, searching for the hint of deceit in his charm, but only found a glimmer of sincerity. "Why would you want me on your team?" "Because you're good," Greg said candidly, his tone shifting. "You have ideas that challenge me, and I respect that." Mia felt the walls around her heart soften slightly. She allowed herself a moment of vulnerability, a rare glimpse into her guardedness. Maybe he wasn't just playing games after all. Maybe he could genuinely help her reach her full potential. "Look, I know I may not have been the easiest person to work with," he continued, his voice steady. "But I believe we can do something great together." Before she could respond, Andrew appeared next to them, a smile on his face. "Hey, glad to see you two connecting. Would you both consider collaborating on the next project?" The question hung in the air like a low hum, an electric charge that coursed through Mia. The thought of working with Greg, of taking their buried tensions and turning them into something constructive, sent her heart racing. Sure," Greg answered, clearly enthusiastic. Mia hesitated. "It depends on the project," she said, taking a cautious step back. As Andrew outlined the details, Mia felt a mix of excitement and anxiety churn within her, but the thought of Greg beside her, guiding each step, made her stomach twist. She was terrified yet intrigued. Could she really trust him? "Think it over," Andrew said, his gaze moving between them. Once Andrew stepped away, the air between Greg and Mia felt charged with potential. "So?" he asked, his eyes searching hers. Mia took a deep breath. "I guess it would be an opportunity to prove me wrong." His face broke into a wide grin. "That's the spirit. I have my doubts," she added playfully, her heart racing despite her neutral tone. That night evolved into a series of conversations, laughter, and shared ideas. They talked in ways Mia had never imagined they could, exploring the possibilities of what they could create together. The old animosity began to dissolve, replaced by a strange sense of camaraderie. But then reality hit her again. Was she becoming ensnared in Greg's web of charm? Would she look back and see this as a mistake? As if sensing her hesitation, Greg spoke up, his voice softer. Hey, I know this seems strange. You've seen me at my worst, and maybe I've been too focused on the spotlight. But I promise you I want this to be different. His sincerity caught Mia off guard, her heart racing with uncertainty. Did he genuinely see potential in her? Could this be an opportunity for growth? The evening continued, and as the laughter echoed around them, Mia felt her resistance slowly breaking. She found herself engrossed in the prospect of collaboration, a strange excitement mingling with her apprehension. It wasn't long before the night drew to a close, but the thought of working with Greg lingered in her mind. What had started as irritation and skepticism had transformed into cautious curiosity. Before they parted ways, Greg looked at her, his expression earnest. I'm looking forward to seeing where this leads, Mia. Mia nodded, her heart fluttering as she watched him walk away, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside her. She had entered the night ready to roll her eyes at his name and instead found herself questioning her own judgments. As she stepped out into the cool night air, a new sense of clarity washed over her. This wasn't just their story, it was theirs to shape, to build, and to explore together. Maybe she didn't have all the answers, but she was ready to embrace the uncertainty ahead. In that moment, standing on the precipice of change, she understood one profound truth. Sometimes the most unexpected collaborations can lead to the most transformative journeys, and perhaps this was just the beginning. The room buzzed with chatter, laughter, and the soft clinking of glasses. Mia tried to keep her excitement at bay, but her heart raced with each name she heard. Mia's hands tightened around her drink. The very mention of his name sent an involuntary chill down her spine. She glanced at her friend Kelly, who sat across the table, eyes wide with admiration. Honestly, I can't believe he got it, Mia scoffed, rolling her eyes as she spoke. Kelly shot her a sideways glance. Come on, Mia, he's not that bad. Right, business, Mia replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Just as she finished her sentence, the atmosphere shifted. The room went still and all eyes turned toward the entrance. Greg stepped inside, his confidence radiating like sunlight. He wore a tailored suit that made him look every bit the part he was playing, the star of the show. Mia felt the weight of the room's attention shift as he greeted people with that ever-winning smile. Look at him, she muttered under her breath. Come on, Mia, be nice, he's not as bad as you think, Kelly chided, though Mia could see the glint of admiration in her friend's eyes. Mia shook her head in disbelief. He's a professional backstabber disguised as a nice guy. Kelly rolled her eyes, but Mia couldn't help herself. Something about Greg's presence triggered something deep within her, a mix of resentment and recognition. He was the type who could walk into a room and immediately have everyone hanging on his every word. That charisma had a way of suffocating her thoughts, drowning out her confidence. As Greg shared a laugh with colleagues, Andrew, the founder of the startup, stepped onto the makeshift podium at the front of the room. The thunderous applause faded into a respectful silence, and Mia's eyes flicked back to the stage. Thank you all for being here tonight. This gathering is not just a celebration. It's a reminder of what we can achieve when we work together, Andrew began, his voice steady and warm. And I'd like to specifically highlight someone who has played a pivotal role in this journey, someone who truly embodies our values of teamwork and dedication. Mia clenched her jaw as the applause erupted again. The very sound felt like a dagger in her side, each clap a reminder of what she felt she would never be. She sighed, crossing her arms, desperate to hide her irritation. Relax, Kelly said lightly. Mia snapped. As Greg took the stage, he beamed, transforming into the perfect blend of charm and confidence. Thank you, Andrew, I'm truly honored, he exclaimed, soaking in the applause like a plant thirsting for sunlight. Mia leaned back in her chair, heart heavy with cynical thoughts. Watching him up there, she couldn't help but replay their past encounters in her mind. Flashbacks of meetings where he had dismissed her ideas or casually criticized her suggestions came flooding in. He was all too eager to accept praise while leaving her to navigate the fallout. So, here we are ready to embrace the next big thing. I believe our new project will revolutionize the industry, Greg continued, his voice rising with enthusiasm. It's about breaking boundaries, pushing limits, and daring to dream big. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Mia felt the familiar knot of frustration twist in her stomach. It was as if he had pulled the wool over their eyes, crafting a perfect illusion while she stood in the shadows. But in a corner of her mind, a tiny voice whispered that maybe he wasn't wholly insincere. For a fleeting moment, as Greg spoke passionately about teamwork, she could see glimmers of something genuine. Reminded her of the hope she'd had when she first joined the company, all those dreams of collaborative triumph and shared success. But that spark faded as Greg continued to shine, and Mia felt the fire of resentment flare back up. Who was he to talk about teamwork when he never included her in it? Great speech, Greg, she muttered under her breath, clearly fuming. After his speech, as people crowded around him, eager to congratulate him, Mia remained a reluctant observer, her heart racing. She felt like an outsider stuck on the sidelines while everyone else basked in his glow. Kelly nudged her again. Mia opened her mouth to protest, but before she could speak, Kelly had already dragged her toward the crowd. "Team right," Mia replied dryly, her irritation simmering. As they approached, Greg spotted them, his expression shifting from one of excitement with his admirers to a genuine smile aimed directly at them. "Mia, Kelly," she feigned enthusiasm. "Big moment." "You make it sound like an award ceremony," he replied, laughter dancing in his eyes. Mia couldn't help but feel a flicker of annoyance. He paused, meeting her gaze, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "Tough crowd," he said, a hint of humor in his voice. "But I promise you, I see you, Mia. I recognize your talent." That caught her off guard. "You, absolutely." "I think we could do something incredible together," he replied, leaning in slightly, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. Mia felt a wave of confusion wash over her. "Why would you want to collaborate with me? You've always treated me like sort of a..." He shook his head, the semblance of seriousness washing over his face. "I admit I may have overlooked some contributions in the past. But this time will be different." Just then, Andrew reappeared beside them, his face bright. "You two are going to make a fantastic team. Right, maybe you could even make me less of a nuisance," Mia said, half smiling. Greg chuckled, his eyes flashing with enthusiasm. Mia hesitated, heart pounding as she considered his proposition. What if working with Greg was a chance not just to put their differences aside, but to grow beyond her own insecurities? "I guess that might not be the worst idea," she replied cautiously, her heart racing. Greg grinned, a sincere eagerness shining through. "Fantastic." Before they could talk more, a wave of colleagues pulled Greg away, celebrating his speech and sharing in the applause. Mia hung back, watching him interact effortlessly. For the first time, she saw flickers of sincerity mixed with charm. She had always thought him an opportunist, but maybe he could also be a collaborator. Just then, Emily approached her, excitement written all over her face. "Did you see the way he interacted with you?" Mia felt her heart race again, part anxiety, part hope. "I don't know, Emily, he's always been. Maybe he's changed," Kelly interjected gently. "People can surprise you." A new wave of uncertainty washed over her. What if she were wrong about him? What if he was willing to be more than just the star? As the conversation floated around her, the night began to drift into chaotic joy. The lights twinkled, laughter echoed, and Mia found herself contemplating something deeper. What were her own reservations based on? A fear of being overshadowed, a worry that her opinions wouldn't matter. Maybe working with Greg could flip her perspective. The evening took on a new energy as more people engaged, expressing interest in collaborating on the project they had in mind. As they mingled, Mia caught sight of Greg again, his infectious smile drawing in crowds. Emily mused. The idea lingered in her mind as the night went on. Could Greg genuinely value her input? Was she ready to step out of the shadows and embrace this chance? "Maybe," Mia whispered, uncertainty bubbling beneath the surface. Just then, Greg made his way back to her, excitement in his eyes. Mia felt the knot in her stomach twist again, but this time it was different. She weighed the possibilities. "I'm in," she said finally, her voice steady. His grin widened, entirely genuine. "I promise to work hard." As the night wrapped around them, she realized this was not just a launch for a project, but a chance for something new. Perhaps this collaboration could challenge their preconceived notions, unravel authentic connections, and transform an adversarial relationship into something meaningful. In that moment, with laughter surrounding her and hope blossoming in her heart, she understood the core of collaboration. It required vulnerability, trust, and a willingness to see past the surface. Maybe Greg wasn't just the overconfident rival she had painted him as. Maybe he was the key to unlocking her own potential, wrapped beautifully in the package of annoying guy that she had written off too soon. The night had only just begun, and for the first time, Mia felt a sense of anticipation wash over her, not just for the project ahead, but for the journey of discovery unfolding right before her eyes. Sometimes the most surprising connections can spark the most rewarding paths, and she was ready to embrace it all. The room buzzed with chatter and anticipation, the kind of energy that only comes from a crowd excited about a big announcement. Mia stood near the back, her arms crossed and a frown etched on her face. It was a launching party for a groundbreaking app, and everyone was abuzz with excitement, everyone except for her. Whispered a voice nearby. Mia instantly knew who they were talking about. She muttered, rolling her eyes so hard that she thought they might get stuck that way. Just the mention of his name sparked annoyance deep within her. Greg Thompson was the type of guy who could breeze into a room and capture everyone's attention with a single grin. But to Mia, he was just the self-proclaimed king of the world, always playing the leading role while everyone else faded into the background. "Come on, Mia, he's not that bad," her friend Kelly said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Sure he is," Mia snapped, her tone biting. She watched as Greg weaved effortlessly through the crowd, shaking hands, flaunting his charm, and basking in the glory of being admired. Meanwhile, Mia felt like a ghost, a silent observer in a show she didn't audition for. She whispered under her breath. As the founder, Andrew, took the stage, the room quieted down, and Mia reluctantly focused her attention on him. Andrew was respected and charismatic in his own right, known for emphasizing teamwork and collaboration. Tonight, however, it felt more like a countdown to what was sure to be a Greg-centric show. "Thank you all for being here," Andrew began, his voice calm yet powerful. Mia felt her pulse quicken, tension building. As Andrew's eyes scanned the room, she could practically feel Greg's imminent call to fame looming overhead. "Please welcome." Applause erupted, echoing off the walls of the expansive room. Mia felt a small pang of frustration. The way everyone responded to Greg felt almost choreographed. He took the stage with an air of confidence, wearing his suit-like armor, and Mia couldn't help but feel that he had long since mastered the art of self-promotion. "Thank you, Andrew," Greg exclaimed, flashing that trademark smile. His voice rose like an anthem, capturing the attention of the entire room. Her heart sank. While Mia understood the concept of teamwork, Greg had a knack for making it all about him. The way he presented himself, it was always him at the center, shining while everyone else played supporting roles. If he were an artist, he'd paint the whole canvas and leave out any evidence of his collaborators. Mia murmured to Kelly, shaking her head. "This is why we're constantly overshadowed." Just then, her irritation was interrupted by Greg's booming voice. "We've faced challenges, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished." Mia wondered, was he actually inspiring them, or was he just good at stirring up applause? He looked like he was on some kind of grand adventure while she stood on the sidelines, tangled in doubt and skepticism. The crowd cheered, and for a moment, as Greg basked in the accolades, Mia felt her own resentment morph into something deeper, a simmering frustration that she couldn't shake off. She had her ideas, her dreams, her belief that everyone should be heard, yet here she was, drowning in Greg's shadow like seaweed tangled in the surf. As Greg stepped down from the platform, he was immediately surrounded by admirers, eager to congratulate him. Mia crossed her arms tightly, feeling that familiar pang of isolation. The laughter echoed, but all it did was reverberate around her, amplifying her uncertainty. Kelly suggested, glancing between Mia and Greg. "Congratulate him," she replied, her tone sharp. "Maybe you're being a little too harsh," Kelly said, a hint of concern in her voice. "Maybe, but he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and the gift of gab, while the rest of us have to fight tooth and nail to be recognized," Mia snapped. "I'm tired of playing second fiddle." Taking a deep breath, she turned her back on Greg and the crowd, which felt suffocating in that moment. She didn't want to witness another round of Greg flipping charm like it was a medal in a competition. Just then, Andrew made his way back to the center of the room, and the crowd quieted again. Mia's brow knitted together. What else could they possibly have in store? "Greg and I have discussed a new initiative. We want to encourage collaboration between our talented team members and develop new ideas that can propel us forward." The room erupted once more, but Mia felt her heart race for an entirely different reason. She echoed, glancing at Kelly. Greg moved back into view, the excitement on his face unmistakable. He said, the passion in his voice radiating. But as the clapping died down, Mia felt something change within her, a flicker of hope tangled with distrust. She'd watched Greg commandeer chances, but this seemed genuine. Could it be an opportunity to step out of her comfort zone and prove her skills in a space that often felt so hostile? As the murmurs of potential collaborations filled the space, Mia caught Greg's eye. He was speaking with a small group, hands moving energetically as he animatedly described a vision. She felt a rush of determination flow through her. Every fiber of her being warned her to stay aloof, but what if stepping forward could shift the narrative? What if she didn't have to remain buried under Greg's spotlight? Gathering her courage, Mia approached the now crowded space around Greg, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Hey Greg," she finally managed, her heart beating faster than she expected. He turned, eyebrows shooting up in surprise. "Mia, thanks." She hesitated, composing her thoughts. Greg's face lit up with interest. "That's awesome." As she began to speak, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her. The walls she had built around herself began to crumble. She found her voice, articulating her thoughts and dreams with a passion she didn't know she possessed. "You know," she continued, passion rising, "if we really want to make this work, I think we should find a way to engage everyone's contributions. When we highlight just one person, like, say," Greg leaned in, intrigued by her insights. For the first time, his charming smile didn't feel condescending. It felt like recognition, like her ideas were valid. "That's an interesting point. It might be worth brainstorming how we can involve more voices in this process," he replied thoughtfully. Mia felt a knot of tension in her chest start to loosen. She hadn't expected it, but there was a moment of real connection, a flicker of mutual respect. It sent ripples of warmth through her body, and for the first time, she wondered if Greg could truly be a collaborator rather than an adversary. As they discussed her ideas, she saw a shift in Greg's expression, something more substantive than the usual charm. There was a genuine interest reflected in his eyes, an acknowledgement that maybe she was a threat to his crown, and he needed to consider joining forces rather than competing. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. She was breaking the mold, crashing through her own assumptions, and forging a new path. In that moment, Mia understood that she didn't have to play the role of the underdog anymore. She could become a partner. Hours flew by as they exchanged thoughts, formed plans, and shared laughter. The tension that once hung thickly in the air transformed into a buzz of creativity and camaraderie. As they poured ideas into the ether, the lines between rival and collaborator blurred effortlessly. The crowd eventually dwindled, and Mia felt a heartbeat of triumph within her. She had stood up, taken the initiative, and dared to speak out, dared to forge a new connection with someone she had dismissed for far too long. "Thank you for making me feel heard," she said, sincerity spilling from her lips. Greg smiled warmly. "Absolutely, let's keep this going." As they continued to brainstorm late into the night, Mia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The doubts she harbored shrank into insignificance alongside her newfound confidence. What had started as a night filled with dread and anxiety transformed into a storm of opportunities and achievements. Mia looked at Greg, genuinely smiling for once. What if working together could reshape not just their relationship but their futures? What if they built something that surpassed every limitation they'd both faced? As they exchanged ideas, shifting from skepticism to collaboration, the energy in the room shifted dramatically. No longer was it a battleground, it became a canvas, wide open and filled with endless possibilities. Mia understood now that vulnerability could ignite creativity, that true partnerships could emerge from unexpected alliances. That evening, she didn't just defend her ideas, she stepped into her power, discovering that sometimes the most profound changes begin when we dare to look past our preconceived notions. And as the room filled with the sounds of laughter and inspiration, Mia felt a flicker of hope rise like dawn, illuminating the potential for a bond that could create something extraordinary. In that moment, she let go of the past and embraced the uncharted territory ahead, ready for the adventure that awaited. The moment she heard his name, Mia felt a familiar surge of irritation rush through her. "Oh great, Greg is here," she whispered to her colleague Emily, rolling her eyes dramatically. Just the mention of him was enough to send a wave of negative energy up her spine. They had gathered for the annual tech launch party at a trendy downtown venue. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and conversations dripping with hope. Everyone was buzzing about the latest app, a groundbreaking idea that could reshape the industry. But for Mia, it was all overshadowed by Greg Thompson, the golden boy of the company. "Come on, he's not that bad," Emily said, her voice light. She genuinely admired Greg as most people did. How could she not? He had charm and a way of making everyone feel seen, but Mia found it to be just another layer of his act. Mia replied, her tone laced with sarcasm. "He's like a peacock in a room full of sparrows." As her gaze traveled across the crowded room, she saw him. Greg was at the center of it all, animatedly engaging with a group of colleagues. The way he laughed, the way the light caught his perfectly styled hair, made him look like a star on a red carpet. It made her cringe. "Let's just hope he doesn't monopolize the evening with his incredible insights," Mia muttered, her arms crossed. Emily teased lightly, but Mia felt the anger rise inside her. She had worked hard, pouring her heart and soul into every project, but somehow it was always Greg who got the credit, the accolades, and the spotlight. The tension pulsed within her, and she desperately wanted to shake it off. Just then, Andrew, the founder of the company, stepped onto the stage. The crowd quieted, anticipation hanging thick in the air. Andrew was a mentor in every way that mattered. He had a reputation for recognizing talent and uplifting his team. But tonight, Mia feared it wouldn't turn into anything more than another platform for Greg to shine. Andrew began, his voice smooth and assuring. His heart raced as Andrew's gaze drifted across the room. Mia could barely breathe as her stomach twisted. Who else could it be? "Please welcome." Thunderous applause erupted, and Mia clenched her fists at her sides. There it was, the moment everyone had been waiting for. As Greg stepped onto the stage, an infectious smile broke across his face, illuminating the room like a flare in the dark. "Thank you, Andrew," he called out, and the crowd cheered once more. Mia couldn't stand it. This was not about Greg. It was about the team, and her frustrations boiled over. She blurted out, and Emily shot her a warning glance. "The project we're launching tonight represents countless hours of collaboration," Greg continued, his voice smooth like honey. "We've faced challenges, but working together is what has made us strong." Yet as he spoke, Mia's anger morphed into doubt. Was he truly as arrogant as she believed, or was he genuinely trying to acknowledge the team? She felt the knot in her stomach tight. After his speech, the crowd surged around him like moths to a flame. Mia turned to walk away, unable to bear it any longer. But before she could escape into the crowd, Andrew called out again. Mia mumbled, turning back, curiosity creeping in despite her irritation. "We want to kick off an initiative that encourages our entire team to propose ideas and collaborate on projects," Andrew said, excitement building in his voice. "Tonight, I challenge each of you to step up and share your thoughts." The room buzzed with renewed energy, and Mia felt an unexpected flutter of hope. Maybe this was the chance to finally be heard. Emily asked, nudging her gently. Mia hesitated. "No way, this is different. A chance for everyone to contribute," Emily encouraged. "You've got great ideas, and who knows?" Mia felt a battle rage inside her. Could she really risk it, put herself out there? The thought both terrified and thrilled her. As the evening unfolded, she stood off to the side, watching the excitement swirl around Greg. For once, it seemed he was willing to share the stage, if only for a brief moment, but the doubt clung to her. "Let's just get this over with," Mia muttered, frustration edging back in. But just then, she caught Greg's eye from across the room. He was standing, surrounded by admirers, laughing and basking in their adoration, and for a moment their eyes locked. It was as if time paused, and in that instant something shifted in Mia's mind. Could she really keep dismissing him? With a rush of determination, Mia stepped forward, her legs moving almost of their own accord. As she approached the crowd enveloping Greg, she felt the familiar knot in her stomach, but this time it was different, charged with a sense of possibility. "Hey Greg," Mia said, her heart racing. He turned, his eyes brightening. "Mia, what do you think about Andrew's idea?" she asked, feeling the weight of the moment hanging between them. "Well, I think it's fantastic," he replied. "Yeah," she said, her voice steadying. Greg nodded, his expression earnest. "Exactly." Mia felt a small spark ignite within her. "Maybe we could collaborate," she suggested, surprised at her own boldness. "Absolutely." "I'd love to work together," he said, a genuine smile crossing his face. The thrill of possibility bubbled up inside her. What had begun as resentment morphed into curiosity. They exchanged ideas, and slowly Mia began to feel a connection forming. As they spoke, the crowd around them faded, and it felt as if they were in their own world. In that moment, Mia realized something profound. She had the power to rewrite her story, and so did Greg. Minutes turned into an hour as they brainstormed ideas, each bouncing off the other's energy. The tension that had once filled her heart transformed into inspiration. When Andrew announced the start of the proposal submissions, Mia felt a wave of excitement wash over her. This was it. This was her chance to vault herself into the team spotlight. "Mia, you have to submit something," Emily urged, watching her with eager eyes. She asked, the fear of failure loomed large. "Absolutely, just remember you deserve to be recognized and your ideas matter," Kelly chimed in, a reassuring smile on her face. Feeling emboldened, Mia turned back to Greg. "I think I'll go for it," she said, the words igniting a flame within her. "I'll be right by your side," he said. The warmth of his encouragement fueled her determination. The clock began to tick, counting down the moments before the submissions were due. Mia cast a glance at Greg, who was caught up in a conversation. A part of her wondered if this was just a fleeting connection, or if it could evolve into something deeper, an authentic partnership. As the night wore on, she found herself sketching ideas on a napkin, weaving possibilities into a coherent vision. She felt empowered, despite the anxious fluttering in her belly. When it was finally her turn to pitch, adrenaline pumped through her veins. She would not back down this time. Stepping forward, Mia took a deep breath and began to outline her proposal. The room fell silent as she spoke, and for the first time she felt the attention shift toward her. "I want to create a project that not only showcases our app, but also highlights all the incredible talents within our team," she declared, pouring her soul into every word. "Let's break the mold." As she continued, Mia glanced toward Greg, who was nodding in encouragement. His presence was a comforting anchor. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. This wasn't just a victory for her, it was a victory for everyone who felt overlooked. The adrenaline buzzed through her, a feeling of exhilaration that eclipsed any lingering doubts. Greg stepped forward, beaming with pride. "That was incredible, Mia." The approval felt like a warm embrace, and for the first time her resentment toward him faded away. The connection they had forged remained, glowing brightly as a new chapter began to unfold. As the night came to a close and people began filtering out of the venue, Mia realized that her perceptions had shifted. She no longer viewed Greg as a rival, but as a partner. In the dim light, as they exchanged ideas and laughter in hushed tones, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment sequencing through her. Their conversations had evolved beyond mere chatter to a genuine partnership of ideas, ambitions, and understanding. "I'm glad we met tonight," she said genuinely, her heart full. "Same here. You opened my eyes to the importance of collaboration," Greg replied, his smile sincere. The future beckoned with promise, and Mia understood that the journey ahead would be unpredictable but exhilarating. With each passing moment, their partnership grew stronger, fueled by a shared vision and a willingness to uplift one another. Sometimes the most unexpected connections blossom into incredible opportunities, and as the stars twinkled above them, Mia felt the weight of her past lift off her shoulders, making way for the thrilling unknown, the journey of collaboration, breakthrough, and newfound friendship. The moment Mia heard his name, a wave of irritation washed over her. She thought as she leaned against the wall, arms crossed tightly. The launch party for their groundbreaking app was in full swing, and while everyone around her buzzed with excitement and laughter, Mia felt her mood sour like milk left out in the sun. A coworker asked, brimming with enthusiasm. Mia let out a frustrated sigh, her eyes rolling instinctively. "Oh sure, because we all need another round of his self-congratulatory banter," she mumbled under her breath, knowing that her disdain was palpable. Greg Thompson, the golden boy of the tech world, was the epitome of charm and charisma. Everywhere he went, heads turned and conversations flowed effortlessly around him. To Mia, he was more than just a charismatic figure. He was the embodiment of everything she found frustrating in the corporate world. "Come on, he's not that bad," her friend Kelly urged, looking at Mia with that familiar twinkle of optimism in her eyes. "Not that bad, have you seen him? He glides through the room like he owns it," Mia shot back, her voice thick with sarcasm. Just then, the founder of the company, Andrew, stepped onto the stage, his authoritative presence instantly commanding the room's attention. The audience quieted down and Mia's heart raced with anticipation. She knew what was coming, another shining moment for Greg. "Tonight, we're celebrating innovation, creativity, and teamwork," Andrew began, his tone warm and inviting. "But there's someone here who has truly gone above and beyond, someone who has shaped our project into something remarkable." Applause erupted, and Greg washed over the crowd with his magnetic smile. As he maneuvered to the front, Mia felt a mix of resentment and exhaustion wash over her. This was supposed to be a celebration of the entire team, but somehow it always felt like it was turning into a one-man show. Greg said, his voice booming with pride. "I'm thrilled to be part of this incredible team." Mia rolled her eyes again, feeling the tension in her chest rise like a tide. "All talk, no action," she muttered under her breath, narrowing her gaze as he continued. But just as she was about to turn away, she caught a glimpse of the crowd's reaction. Faces lit up with admiration and hope, and for a fraction of a second she felt a pang of doubt. Maybe there was more to him than she gave him credit for. Could that charisma translate into inspiration? As he spoke about teamwork, Mia felt her resolve being chipped away, even as she fought to retain her critical stance. Perhaps Greg wasn't just the slick opportunist she'd always pegged him to be, but for now she pushed that thought aside, unwilling to let herself be swayed. After the applause subsided, Greg stepped off the stage, quickly surrounded by admirers eager to fawn over him. Mia could feel the pressure building inside her, a tightening of the chest that hinted at both jealousy and frustration. She wanted to retreat into the shadows to escape the spotlight that always seemed to gravitate toward him. Kelly suggested eagerly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Mia replied, exasperation creeping into her voice. "Oh, come on, you can't stay mad forever," Kelly insisted. "Team." "The last time I checked, this was a competition in Greg's head," Mia spat back, crossing her arms even tighter. But Kelly wasn't having it. "Just give it a chance," she urged. Mia could feel the weight of the decision hanging over her. With an exaggerated sigh, she relented, allowing Kelly to pull her into the throng of admirers. As they approached Greg, Mia's heart raced. When Greg caught sight of them, his face broke into an all-too-familiar grin. "Mia, Kelly," he exclaimed, seemingly unfazed by her earlier disdain. "Great speech," Mia said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. He replied, genuine enthusiasm lighting up his face. She wanted to scoff, but instead found herself intrigued. Was he being for real? The screen between them slowly crackled with the hum of possibility. He continued, eyes bright with interest. For a moment her mind raced. Was it possible he was sincere? Was there a hint of vulnerability behind that well-crafted facade? Before she could respond, Andrew reappeared, drawing the spotlight back to himself. "Now, before we move into networking, I want to announce something exciting," he said, glancing from Mia to Greg. The buzz in the room shifted, and Mia felt her heart quicken. This was her chance, an opportunity to finally be recognized outside of Greg's overshadowing presence. "I encourage each of you to step up, share your ideas." Andrew continued, and Mia's mind raced with possibilities. Kelly asked, her eyes wide with excitement. Mia hesitated, doubt creeping back in. "Not a chance," Kelly replied, nudging her. "This is way different." Mia felt the battle between excitement and skepticism raging within her. Could she step outside her comfort zone? Her heart pounded as she glanced back at Greg, who was now deep in conversation, his infectious laughter finding its way through the crowd. She began, then stopped short. Every time she had thought of taking a chance, it had backfired, but with the change in the air, she felt a stirring of hope. "I'm in," she said finally, determination infusing her voice. Kelly exclaimed, beaming. "Yeah, let's see if I can finally make my voice heard," Mia replied, feeling a sense of liberation wash over her. The night wore on, and as they mingled, Mia found herself sketching out ideas in her mind. What if she could propose a project that not only highlighted their app, but also showcased the talents of the entire team? "Greg," she blurted out, surprising even herself. "Absolutely, I'd love to hear your thoughts," he said, stepping closer with genuine curiosity. With each word they exchanged, Mia found the tension she had built around Greg starting to dissolve. They moved closer, sharing ideas that sparked excitement within her. Each suggestion flowed seamlessly between them, and the air crackled with inspiration. Greg listened, as if every word she spoke mattered. The acknowledgement felt refreshing, like a breath of fresh air. When it was finally her turn to pitch her proposal, Mia felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She rose, heart pounding, legs shaky. God, this was it. Kelly encouraged, and she could see Greg smiling off to the side, a quiet cheerleader. Taking a deep breath, Mia stepped forward, ready to share her vision. "What if our app could engage not just the team, but the community as well?" As she pitched her ideas, she felt empowered, the room buzzing around her as she spoke. The energy pulsed, pulling the audience in, and for the first time, Mia felt the wall she had built crumble away completely. Greg said afterward, his enthusiasm palpable. When the applause erupted, it felt like fire coursing through her veins. It was no longer just about Greg or her frustrations. It was about the team, collaboration, and the opportunity to create something magnificent. As the night dwindled, she realized the reluctance hanging over her had dissipated, replaced by the soft glow of hope and excitement. Maybe, just maybe, she could build something incredible, something that transcended the trivial rivalries she had harbored toward Greg. Then, as the crowd began to thin out, Greg stepped closer, a genuine smile lighting up his face. "I'm really proud of you, Mia. Thanks, I appreciate it," she replied, smiling back. "You're a natural," he said, his passion contagious. In that moment, they locked eyes, and she realized how beautifully complex their relationship had become. From rivals, they had transformed into allies, each pushing the other to rise. As they exchanged ideas into the later hours, Mia felt a warmth spread through her. She was no longer just a background player. She was a force to be reckoned with, and together they could enrich not just their lives, but the entire company as well. On that night, Mia learned something invaluable. The narrative she had created in her mind about Greg was just that, an illusion. In reality, they were both striving for the same goal. And as they walked out into the cool night air, there was a sense of uncharted territory ahead, wrapped in promise and potential. Mia felt lighter than she had in months, empowered and ready to embrace the new journey unfurling before her. The banter and camaraderie continued to weave a thread, one that marked the beginning of a partnership steeped in respect, innovation, and mutual understanding. And for Mia, that was the most thrilling adventure she could ask for. The moment Mia heard the name Greg, something inside her twisted, an involuntary reaction that felt all too familiar. She leaned back against the sleek bar, her drink half full, and crossed her arms tightly. "Oh great, just what we need," she muttered under her breath to her friend Emily, who stood next to her, eyes wide with anticipation. Emily shot back, the kind of blind optimism that made Mia want to roll her eyes even harder. "Not that bad," Mia replied, exasperation dripping from her words. They were at the launch party for an innovative new app that Mia had poured her heart into designing. She'd spent countless hours in meetings, crafting ideas, pointing out flaws, and working hard to make it successful. But whenever Greg came into the picture, all that hard work felt eclipsed by his presence. He was tall, dark, and annoyingly charming, with a smile that could turn even the harshest critic into a fan. "Just give him a chance," Emily urged, but Mia felt the tension building in her chest. As Greg entered the venue, his confident stride commanded attention. Heads turned and laughter bubbled up around him as if drawn in by an invisible string. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, exuding an air of effortless assurance that made Mia want to scream. Mia said under her breath, shaking her head. Emily smirked. "Jealous? Hardly," Mia shot back, trying to quell the irritation bubbling beneath the surface. "I just can't stand the sheer performance of it all." The founder of their company, Andrew, stepped up to the microphone, instantly commanding the room's attention. His voice filled the air smooth and steady, a welcome contrast to the chaos diving deep into Mia's mind. He began, the audience quieting down, but before Mia could absorb Andrew's praise, she felt the tension shift when he continued. "Tonight, I want to highlight someone who has been a cornerstone of this project." Applause erupted, and Mia squeezed her drink tighter as Greg moved to the stage. She could practically feel the energy radiating off the crowd as he flashed his dimpled smile, taking center stage like a rock star. And while everyone else cheered, she clenched her teeth. Greg began, waving like a politician. Watching him walk through the room, Mia couldn't help but think about the countless times he had sidestepped her suggestions in meetings, brushing them off like they were mere dust on his shoulder. And now here he was, receiving praise that should have been shared with the entire team. The injustice burned in her chest. Mia muttered to Emily, emphasizing her point. Emily countered, but Mia wasn't buying it. As Greg continued to speak, her mind drifted, replaying previous encounters. She remembered the moment when they had pitched the app concept together, and how he had taken her initial idea and twisted it into something all his own. That day had felt like a devastating loss, and now he was basking in the limelight that should have been theirs together. After an overly dramatic speech, Greg stepped off the stage and was instantly surrounded by a swarm of well-wishers, eager to flatter and congratulate him. Mia felt like a ghost, lingering on the edge of the crowd while that twinkling charisma suffocated the rest of the room. Emily prompted again, trying to pull Mia into the crowd. Mia replied, frustration spilling over, "I'd rather just." But before she could walk away, Andrew stepped forward with a bright smile, a beacon of stability in the swarming chaos. "Hey, everyone," Mia felt her heart race as Andrew scanned the crowd, willing his gaze to find hers. The air buzzed with electricity. This was a chance, a real chance to shine where everyone would be given a voice. Emily leaned in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But the doubt crept back in, whispering uncertainties into her racing heart. She countered, the fear clawing at her. "Mia, this is different, trust me," Emily urged, her enthusiasm unwavering. "You've got great ideas." Mia glanced back at Greg, who'd evidently overheard and was now engaging with people around him. He laughed, leaning into the spotlight as if it were molded just for him. Something inside Mia ignited an ember of resolve. Okay, she found herself saying, let's do this. Emily nearly squealed, but if I bomb, just know that it's all on you, Mia shot back with a smirk, shaking off the last vestiges of doubt. As the night wore on, Mia felt inspiration spark in her mind. She moved around the room, soaking in conversations and brainstorming her proposal. It grew and blossomed, and for the first time in a while, Mia felt alive. Her ideas were flowing with a vitality that she lost sight of in the shadow of Greg's confidence. A voice called out, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Greg, striding toward her as everyone around seemed to part like waves. Mia's heart raced as he approached. What did he want? More accolades for himself? She pushed her frustration down. His expression was earnest, perhaps even vulnerable. The offer caught her off guard, and Mia hesitated. A part of her wanted to scoff, dismissing the overture as more of Greg's grand illusion of teamwork. But another part yearned for validation, for partnership, to see what could come from their combined talent. I need time to think about it, she finally replied, trying to maintain her composure. Of course, his smile was genuine, and for just a moment she felt that familiar wall beginning to crack, but the doubts returned like an unwanted ache. Yeah, let's see how tonight goes first, she said, quickly changing the subject. Before he could respond, Mia walked away, her heart pounding. She needed air, a moment to breathe and sort through everything. The tension inside her was palpable, a tight coil that threatened to snap. Finding a quieter spot near the back, she leaned against the wall, taking deep breaths, reminding herself why she felt this way about Greg in the first place. But there was another level to it now, a twist she hadn't anticipated. As she stared into the crowd, watching Greg mingle with laughter and applause, she noticed something change in the atmosphere. The energy shifted as Andrew stepped back onto the stage, his expression serious, a stark contrast to the cheerfulness of the evening. I have one last announcement before we wrap up for the night, Andrew said, his voice cutting through the buzz. I must address something that has arisen regarding our app. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Mia watched Greg, who seemed to absorb the news more seriously than she'd ever seen. The integrity of our work is vital, Andrew continued. We're temporarily pulling the app from public use until we ensure everything is secure. Panic erupted in murmurs. The room suddenly felt smaller, constricted with uncertainty. Mia's mind raced. What did this mean for the proposal? For the project that had consumed so much of their lives? The excitement of the evening felt stripped away in an instant. Greg's demeanor shifted. She watched him exchange worried glances with those close to him. She had always seen him as someone shrouded in self-absorption, but right now, he looked just as troubled as everyone else. Let's stay calm and return to our discussions, Andrew advised, but Mia felt the anxiety bubbling to the surface. With the room engulfed in unease, she turned back to Greg and their eyes met. It was a moment filled with unspoken questions. For the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability behind his usually confident facade. In that instant, Mia understood something fundamental. Maybe they were both pieces of the larger puzzle. Maybe, just maybe, they could face the storm together. But before she could take a step toward him, he was swept away by the crowd, leaving her standing alone in the dim light. The doubt nagged at her heart, wrestling with the resolve that had begun to grow earlier. As frustration turned to determination, she knew she had a choice to make. Was she going to turn her back once more, or was she ready to open her heart to the possibilities unfolding before her? The atmosphere shifted again, more than just the news. It was a call to action. And as Mia watched Greg disappear into the throng of worried faces, her eyes hardened with resolve. Perhaps this moment was the turning point, a time to rise above the noise, above old judgments. Suddenly, everything felt like it was hanging in the balance. Could they pull together to confront this new crisis? The opportunity hung there, tantalizing but uncertain. And just as she took a steadying breath, she felt a wave of energy surge through her. Mia's heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her veins. This could be the moment she had been waiting for, not only to prove herself, but to step into a new chapter with someone she had once dismissed too quickly. As she glanced back toward the crowd, determination ignited and filled her chest. She wouldn't just be a spectator any longer. The night was far from over, and a new journey was calling. The cliff was right there, the leap beckoning her to take that first step into the unknown. Mia squared her shoulders, heart pounding. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready. It was time to embrace the change and tackle it head-on. And as she stepped toward the crowd, the shadows of self-doubt began to recede, revealing a road paved with possibilities.